I see Uncle Steve's got first blood this morning. Rock and roll, and Be Controversial has joined us as well. Matt, I am so happy at the consistency with which Be Controversial will continue to join us and engage with this show. Because let me be clear, Be Controversial and I linked up in chat watching Timcast After Hours like almost 2 months ago, and frankly, with a lot of people like that, if we run into each other late at night on some chat board somewhere, we're not talking about people that are up at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time every day. But Be Controversial. We don't know each other personally. We've had the interaction with chats and him watching the show and chatting here. I've gathered from some of the conversation that he's a veteran, and I know that right there has something to do with it, because like I know Mario is never in bed before 2 and I'm never in bed after 2, right? Veterans don't sleep like people.
Yeah.
How
like I'd say the nights that I'm not in bed before 2 are directly followed by mornings where I don't show up to the show. So
that is correct.
So trying to do better on that. Anyway,
and we've noticed and we've insulted you for it. It works.
I'm fortified by negative feedback loops. It's no big deal. I am the sin eater.
I ain't gonna lie, Mario. I miss screaming at you and being screamed at in return while doing towel push-ups, muscle failure PT.
Yep.
And the occasional binge at the Britannia Arms.
Yep. So my policy has always been strength through trauma. So works for me.
Ain't nothing like drinking Guinness straight from the pitcher at a Brit pub in a hippie town.
So today
Uncle Steve drew first blood. Be Controversial's with us. I see Trish is in there. Good morning. Good morning. Patrick's with us. Your Majesty, His Majesty has joined us, and I'll be seeing him in just a few hours. We got a bit of business to handle this morning, and then hopefully some chainsaw work, perhaps. GCM's with us, and Megan. Good morning, sunshine. Love you, honey. And Cindy D. There's another name. I'm not entirely certain where Cindy D came across the channel and started watching, but she has also been a consistent, reliable daily viewer that I appreciate more than you know. And for all of you guys that watch consistently and enjoy the show, I know a few of you have already jumped on and hit that link in the description for the Buy Me a Coffee thing. Guys, if I can get everybody that subscribes to the channel to just go in there and subscribe for $5 a month, I will make Cameron and Mario quit their jobs.
Is this your Stefan Molyneux moment? Just $1.
Yes, but I don't have quite so many viewers, so I want $5.
Yeah, and you got you have more props than Molyneux anyway, so you should be doing better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Plus, and Molyneux got started way before the Biden economy, so $1 was enough.
Yeah,
$1's not worth $1 anymore. And speaking of government fraud, waste, and abuse, did Elon have him a weekend? Mario, you want to talk a little bit about this? Or you want me to go straight to the tweet?
No. Let me prime it. So we had Doge and the State Department. Okay, went on basically a massive hatchet job, basically a Friday night massacre, if you will, in regards to basically shutting down the money machine, okay, that funds the NGO empire. We've talked about NGOs, non-governmental organizations, on this show several times in the past, warning about how they essentially are the operational arm of the deep state, especially overseas. All right, translating U.S. money, okay, and buckets of it, okay, towards their ends towards the progressive liberal end. All right, globally, basically globo homo. We talk about the gay American empire, right? Globo homo. That is what we are seeing, the brakes being slammed on massively right now. So 2 areas where DOJ, Department of Government Accountability, or Department of Government Efficiency, right, went in and locked locked people out of their computers, okay, at the U.S. Department of Agriculture and at the Treasury, okay, starting on Friday and throughout the weekend. So thousands of employees unable to access their accounts while basically Musk's henchmen, if you will, go digging through the records and basically auditing people in real time. All right. So this caused an existential panic. And if you have that image where they at the Treasury, right, where they unearthed $1 billion in racism being paid for by the U.S. government, do you have that? Do you have that image, Larry?
Oh God! Oh,
it's way back in the Camarillo. But anyway, they went through and just immediately started chopping the stuff that is relates to DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, under direct order from Trump. Anything DEI gets the chop. All right, on the spot. Now all these are paid positions.
This one.
Yeah, these are paid positions or money outlays that are going towards DEI programs. Okay, across the board. And like some of this stuff is outrageous. Like if you scroll up to the top, it's like $100 million. Department of Agriculture, $112 million for DEI programs. So what is that? Is that like money for black farmers or trans farmers or what? I don't even know.
And specifically there, during the COVID thing, shortly after Biden took office, there was this whole push, and this was one of Kamala's big bugaboos, to give government money to subsidize specifically black farmers. And think back just 6 months or so, you'll remember Kamala got caught with her hand in the cookie jar. She said that she was going to do some specific things for the community, and went out of her way to say we're going to create grants and loans for black business owners. And look, black men just aren't voting for Kamala in the numbers that we want to see. So we're going to give them money. We're going to pay close attention to making sure that their Bitcoin is secure, and we're going to decriminalize marijuana. Because if we know one thing about blacks, says Kamala Harris, if we know one thing about black men, it's they love money and weed. And we're going to make sure that they have it. We're going to give them money and weed. And a whole lot of brothers looked at that and said, "Hold up, bitch. You don't know me." And they went and voted for the Donald. They went and put on their MAGA hats, and they said, you know what? Well, I want to live in an America where I make choices and get paid, and then some government shill with a shotgun doesn't come and confiscate 50% of my earnings and wealth. That's what I want.
Well, many more black people did vote for Trump, but I mean, let's be honest. The numbers are still, they're still like 90% Democrat Party. Okay,
closer to 80.
Closer to
80. This is actually it's not a distinction without a difference. The 10% difference is almost 20% of black men voted for Trump.
Yeah, 10% difference is a federal election right there. But yeah,
well, it's not only that. When you're talking about the black demographic, especially the black male demographic, the traditional wisdom on that front is that if the Republican Party ever, and I'm not saying this is true, but it's something that's repeated in the halls of Congress. If the Republican Party ever breaks 20% of the black vote, that's the end of the Democrat Party. And they're not wrong. One of the things that we're seeing now since the election is the Democrat Party. They don't have a backbench. They don't have any substantial talent that's rising up through the ranks. Who are they going to put up? Who are they going to put up to run in 2028? Are they going to try Kamala again?
I've seen their internal polling, and right now it is Kamala. That's all they have, really. They don't.
Right, and she will almost certainly run in the primary. But we
got David Hogg as the DNC co-chair now.
Oh God, yeah. that may be the whole show on Friday. David Hogg as the DNC co-chair. You want to talk about taking a crisis by the ears and just just raw humping it across the finish line. I'll give the boy this. He has made lemons out of lemonade.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could recompress a tragedy into such a shiny little fruit, but David Hogg managed to grab a handful of lemonade and squeeze it into a lemon.
Well, if we had a Daniel Hogg surface every time there was a school shooting, I mean, at this point we might be able to do away with the National Firearms Act. He's so good. He does such a good job in making us look normal. He does. But right. So anyway, government employees locked out. Okay, can't log in. All right, to their job. And a lot of these people are telework. Okay, of course. So what do people do when they're locked out of their telework job, but they're still sitting in front of their computer because they have nothing else to do? Well,
Mario, they have to go back into the office. They're required to go back into the office.
Yeah, at some point they will.
If they won't go back into the office, they're going to lose their job, right?
Well, you really jumped ahead, but okay. This is an example of this is an example of a Reddit tier individual, okay? And this guy is also a government employee. Now, remember how we talked a few shows back about how some of these people have used telework and COVID to basically allow their freak flag to fly unfettered, okay, for years while they sit at home, stewing in their goon caves, taking their HRT, all right, and fantasizing about, well, crude sexual violence and violence against Republicans and conservatives. Okay, this is the final result. Okay, this man is here. Put him back real quick. This is now you're telling me this guy's going back to the office, Chris? I don't think so. I think this guy. I think he might be. I think he might be done. This could be it. Like this is the path he chose. There's no turning back now.
I'd like to point out, he's got both hands on that weapon.
Yep.
That tells you something. That tells you somebody else took this photo.
Right. Well, or it was a stationary platform.
Maybe, but this is a still image, not a video.
Well, could be. Could be.
There's another person in that room. And that other person didn't say, my dude, you need to rethink your life choices.
The other person in that room may need help. I've been kidnapped. Right. So that's what's going on the domestic front. That's what's going on. We saw basically the Musk's Doge Inquisition came to the USDA and to the Treasury Department, and also from the State Department side, we have effectively the 90-day shutdown of U.S. foreign aid. Okay, now U.S. aid, the actual government agency, is a massive boondoggle that distributes billions and billions of dollars globally, right, in support of various government programs, okay, and financing the non-governmental organization, the NGO machine that basically exists to disperse this government money, okay. NGO, the size and power of NGOs is directly related to how much money, all right, is being shoveled into U.S. aid, amongst others, at the State Department. So we've got a 90-day shutdown where effectively U.S. aid is now, if it's not food and water, it's suspended. Okay, so we're dealing out food and water, and that's it. All right. Stories of what you doing? Yep. There you go.
I did not mean to go back to the training. I was looking for. I meant to bring up this article.
So, what does this mean? Well, I mean, I've been reading just a wide variety of the things you wouldn't think we were financing, that we were financing, that are now shut down. For example, a HIV clinic for trans people in Thailand has been shut down. Okay, wow. African farmers, all right, specific African farmers who grow wheat filler, plants that are used for wheat filler. Okay,
not wheat.
No, wheat filler.
Right. Trash.
Yes. Yeah.
Weeds that look and act enough like wheat. to replace portions of wheat content.
Right. The trash that goes into genetically modified organism food to make the wheat last a little longer. So farms like that have been effectively suspended. Okay, daycare facilities at refugee camps in Syria, okay, have been effectively shut down.
Yes, Mario, real quick.
That's correct.
Real quick. You talk about the wheat filler, and some of this is food aid, and I'm okay with food, the food and water stuff here and there. We talk about that a little more in a minute. But anecdotally, I was on a board interviewing prospective professors for their applications at a college, and what they did is, these were young people who were finishing up their PhDs and trying to get a job guaranteed to them that they'd be able to step into as soon as they actually finish their PhD within the next 6 months. And one of these PhD candidates came in, and her PhD was about these food balls, right? It's like a Nerf football size wad of comestible material made almost entirely from peanuts, and then sealed in package, kind of like the plastic on an MRE, right? And she's explaining all the importance about the nutritional value and the dense nutritional content, and it's almost entirely made from peanuts. And of course, one of the other people on the board raised a hand and asked the question, well, what about nut allergies? And this girl, bless her heart, and she got my vote, and she got the job because she looked at that chick and she answered the question. She said, I need you to understand this. Listen carefully. Nobody in a nation that has legitimate hunger also has peanut allergies. That person does not exist.
Yeah. Well,
that is a convenient disease of wealth and opulence.
Like I say,
peanut allergies do not exist where hunger is.
First world problems. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. There's not. Yeah. I don't think there's many people in a dusty ghetto in Karachi, Pakistan, who have a wheat allergy. Pretty sure they get over that real quick. Pretty sure.
No, they don't.
Or get selected for.
They get naturally selected out of it.
We get selected for. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Poverty does not select for food allergy.
Right.
Survival does not select for food allergy.
Right. So, anyway, now Marco Rubio has been going through and basically fixing a couple like line items here and there. Okay, reinstating whatever aid for valid reasons. And the reason they had to shut it all down, though, okay, as it was said by the State Department, I believe Rubio said it, is you can't audit and repair something like in real time while it's running. Okay, you have to shut it down and basically make an assessment, okay, of what really, and basically kind of look at the effect, look at the result of the shutting down of this money and ceasing these organizations. And you can, by shutting it down, you can see where maybe the aid was actually doing some good, okay, where the aid was actually effective. And then you can see where that aid was effectively just grift and graft, like being siphoned off by the various interested parties, whether they're U.S. NGOs or corrupt, kleptocratic individuals in foreign countries. So
yeah, and this is
important that we do that.
Mario, you mentioned this, before we were on air in the show prep. This is something I've been consistent on for as long as you've known me, since 2006, and I can tell you that there are people watching right now who have known me far longer than that. And I've been consistent on this since I was in high school. When I was about 16, I went to a Amnesty International meeting at the high school. Right, I was 15 or 16 years old, and somebody said, "Oh yeah, we can get involved in this organization and do some good and help change the world and make a positive impact." And I went to the first meeting. At that age, I didn't know what Amnesty International was in particular. It was an aid organization, and at that point in my life, I had done stuff like the Heifer Project and things like that. And I went and sat down in the Amnesty International meeting, and we got about 15 minutes into the description, and I stood up and I said, "Oh, you're a bunch of fucking commies. I didn't realize that. I'm sorry, y'all." y'all do you. I'm not interested. And I walked out. And I've been saying for longer than you've known me, like step one is end all foreign aid. We should have done this 30 years ago. End all foreign aid, and you make everybody reapply. And the first question on the application, the very question number one, what's in it for us? Right? Well, our people are starving. Okay, that's your problem. That's not our problem. And,
Right.
I hate it for you. Breaks my heart. But I got kids to feed too. Right? Take this down to a smaller individual scale and think about your kitchen table economics and politics and ask the question, well, Lowry, why don't you give $1 million a year to charity? Well, I don't have $1 million laying around every year after expenses to give to charities. Okay, well, how about $500,000? Well, no, that's outside of the scope of the budget. Well, what if you just give $1 a month to save random faceless child in the middle? No, I got 4 kids and they eat. In fact, I don't know if some of you don't have kids, so this might come as a surprise to you. They want to eat every damn day.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
It's obnoxious is what it is. I tell you. But yeah, I've maintained this for literally decades that we need to end all foreign aid. You make everybody reapply. I'm not saying there's no such thing as reasonable foreign aid, but you make everybody reapply. And the first question is, what's in it for us? You live in a war-torn nightmare of a shithole country where everybody's starving to death? Okay, we'll send you food and water on the condition that your population revolt and destroy the evil government because, and for so many reasons. One, it'll mean more if you do it yourself. Yes, we can help with that sometimes. But additionally, North Korea is a great example of this. We send literally billions of tons of rice to North Korea every year. And it gets there, and 2 things happen. First, the North Koreans take the food aid that was sent by the U.S. and they open it up and they repackage it, right? Think about this. They're spending the money to do this at a time when their people are starving to death. They're spending the money to take the food aid that we send and repackage it so that it has North Korean government packaging on it as part of their propaganda program. And we're still sending the money there. If we know that they do this, if you know that the foreign government is confiscating the aid and repackaging it, or confiscating it and retaining it, that's the other one, especially in starving African countries. What you've got is local warlords. They go after the people get the foreign aid and they confiscate it and keep it for themselves. So it doesn't get to the people it's intended to. Anywhere that's happening, end the foreign aid. And if you've got corrupt warlord situations like that is what Liber de Oppresso is for. You get in there and you put rounds in these bitches. Now, to what Mario was talking about, as far as the levels of corruption through these aid programs and various NGOs.
Real quick. I got to say one thing about Marco Rubio. Okay, so Marco Rubio, he's doing exactly that. Okay, at the State Department. Okay, so he's even said before he signs, authorizes an outlay of foreign aid spending, he has to ask himself 2 questions: does this make America safer, and does this make America stronger? And if it doesn't, then it doesn't get approved. Okay, so that's exactly the ethos going into the future foreign aid. So hopefully they keep this up. I hope it's not just a 90-day reprieve and then back to business.
And Sergeant Major says countries that can't feed themselves should stop having kids. And I agree with that. And I've said something similar before.
That's what the condoms for Palestinians was about, I guess.
When you feed starving children, they grow up to have more starving children.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a legitimate problem. But at the same time, we did also just catch the U.S. Aid Department attempting to send what was it? Was it $50 billion worth of
Yeah.
condoms to Gaza?
Yeah.
That's insane. That's a psychotic amount of money to spend on anything for a foreign country, let alone condoms for people who religiously will not use them. And then to back to Mario's point about the NGOs, right? We've got this tweet from Elon Musk says USAID is a criminal organization.
Yeah.
Here's a list of line items, and a lot of them say things like this: legal business name, miscellaneous foreign awardees. Miscellaneous foreign awardees. What? That's the business name. And here's the other thing that I want you to pay attention to. Date signed January 31st, 2025, right? New federal procurement data shows that USAID approved over $6 million in contracts on Friday, right? So that's another piece of news right there, that what happened is the USAID department got the notification that there were about to be these cuts and shutdowns and all this going on. And so they tried to hammer through as much, stealing as much U.S. taxpayer dollars as they could at the last minute. And Elon shut that shit down too.
That's like what we saw at the Treasury. Okay, at the Treasury, the acting secretary basically resigned. Okay, he was going to resign anyway after Precedent was approved. But anyway, Doge discovered that there's like $1 trillion automatic payment dispersal, like $1 trillion, okay, in direct pay, all right, that goes out from the Treasury, okay, to all over the world, okay. A lot of it's government employees, okay, but a lot of it is these NGO, USAID, basically type boondoggles, right? But
right, and a lot of that. Go ahead.
But here's the thing, like for decades, all right, for at least a decade, all right. All these new outlays of money. Now there are people at the Treasury whose job it is to basically go through and like approve this stuff individually, approve, decline, et cetera, right? Everything was approved. Everything got approved.
Right.
Okay. So the managers, okay, who are managing these funds have effectively done nothing to control for like this growth in the government spending through the Treasury. And it's absolute madness. Like a lot of this money is going to domestic terrorist organizations. Okay. A lot of it's going to like privileged business interests. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of that.
There's so much corruption. There's so much. A
lot of that money was going to BLM.
One thing alone.
A lot of that money was going to BLM and also to groups like Al Qaeda in Syria.
Yeah.
Right. Things like that. And guys, understand when Mario says they were approving everything, he's not being hyperbolic. Part of this expose includes a list of managers at USAID who have it's the career record, and in a 20-year career have never rejected a proposal.
Yep. Not
once. I mean, pure corruption. Frankly, looking back on it, I'm a little ashamed that I didn't take advantage of all the free money that Democrats were just. I've joked so many times about it. We could fly some BLM banners or get a pride flag back here, and the government would just pour billions of dollars into our pockets. We could be the mouse that roared, right?
Yeah,
but. You know that story, right? The tiny little imaginary nation that got a nuclear weapon, and their theory was we're gonna put our hands on a nuclear weapon precisely because we want the United States to declare war and bomb the shit out of us, so that then they'll come in and rebuild us. Right.
If you were really cynical, okay, under the Biden administration, you could have just gone out and found a random black guy and made friends with him and been like, look, I need you to come back to the studio. You're going to put on this shirt and tie. All right. And you're just going to be the face of whatever.
Right.
We're getting paid. Are you with me?
In fact, I could probably just do it with an AI commentator. But okay. So we're we're way back off topic. Let me get back to this. So the original post that got us talking about this to begin with was this one from Doge. Let me level that up a little bit so you can read it easily. So through January 29, 2025, 85 DEI related contracts totaling $1 billion have been terminated within the departments of Ed, GSA, OPM, EPA, DOL, Treasury, DOD, et cetera, right? So I really want you to pay attention to this. 1 billion, and it's in DEIA, which, so you've heard us talk about DEI a lot, but it, on official paperwork, it's DEIA, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, which is an important little caveat, because what they're doing there, and we've talked about it before. You see the new pride flag, and it's got the brown stripe and the black stripe, and it's got an extra stripe for maps. I'm using that word instead of the correct word, Mario, to minimize censorship from the platforms in this case.
Yep.
As much as I detest the word and absolutely would see them in the same place as Al-Qaeda agents who mutilate children, not in the way that we usually talk about mutilating children, because it is a habit of theirs.
Yep.
But they are blending it together, right? When you see the pride flag and it's got the brown stripe and the black stripe on it, understand that is a political statement being made by a religious organization that has original sin concepts. They have sacraments. They have heresies and blasphemies. They are the LGBTQ plus the alphabet people movement is a cult. It is a full-on religious cult. And the statement they're making with that flag, when they include the brown and black stripe on there, is that being other than straight white male makes you ideologically identical to all deviant personalities and proclivities.
Yeah.
If you are a black man, you are the same as a gay man. If you are a black man, you are the same as a map.
Well, they even take it to disabled people. It's even disabled people now.
And that's what I was getting to.
Yeah.
So now it's diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. If you have a disability, if you're hard of hearing and have to wear hearing aids like I do, then you are the same as a sexual deviant. That you are identical to these people.
Yeah, it's insane.
And that's how it's treated. So going back to this, and so keep in mind when we're talking about all the fraud, waste, and abuse that's being cleaned off the books, right now, it's only the stuff that's related to DEI. Right? Mario and I can tell you from experience and exposure, there is a hell of a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse going on that is not even related to DEI. Right? You wipe out all the DEI and save $1 billion a year in taxpayer dollars. Oh, that's just a drop in the bucket. That's not even getting started yet. There's a lot of trash that's not directly related to DEI, but DEI has been a mainstay and a very valuable weapon for the NGOs. Let's not forget the Mexico City policy that gets repealed and replaced and replaced and repealed. Like right now, we're not funding abortions in foreign terrorist countries. If we had a Democrat in office, we would be. And there's a whole conversation there about the enemy making a mistake, et cetera. But broadly speaking, I'm not in favor of spending our taxpayer dollars on abortions. So Brian Krasenstein, and piss right up this guy's nose. He's a total shit lib. As you can see here, I don't follow him, but he pops up from time to time because he's a reply guy.
He's a professional shill.
Exactly. Yeah. But he asks the question here, does the executive branch have the authority to terminate these contracts? And there's actually mostly anger, relatively small account, I guess. I'll throw him a follow. Let me throw mostly anger a follow because this is a good answer. I'm trying. Okay, I'll have to throw him a follow later. It doesn't. There we go. Flatlander and Lineland. That's funny. Okay, but he points out a lot of replies to this. But here's the actual answer. Yes, because nearly all federal contracts contain federal acquisition regulation termination clauses. And I know that's just some tweet from some guy, but oh wait. No, we can go to Goodwin Law. Executive order mandates termination of DEI related federal contracts and grants. Bottom line up front is explaining the orders, etc. The executive order 14035 is broad and intended to affect the termination of all DEI and diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility mandates, et cetera, et cetera. And then impact on contractors. The executive order resulted in the termination of existing federal contracts and grants with nexus to DEI or DEIA. Nearly all federal contracts contain federal acquisition regulation termination clauses, which allow the federal government to terminate all or part of a contract for the government's convenience.
Right, of course.
Right. So yes, the short answer there is yes. Donald Trump absolutely has the authority to terminate these contracts.
To summarize it real briefly, it's like does the executive have the authority to say no? Of course he does. It's just no one said no in such a long time that people don't even realize that's a possibility. That's
right. Now, what an executive doesn't have the authority to do, so Joe Biden was famous for abusing and overstepping his authority when he went on his redistribution tirade and redistributed all of the student debt that he could put his fingers on. That was an absolute overstep because, in effect, what he was doing was spending money. He was choosing proactively as the executive to initiate the expenditure of taxpayer dollars. Now, that has to begin with the Congress. The House of Representatives holds the purse strings. Remember, this was a big bugaboo during the Affordable Care Act arguments. The House was supposed to originate any legislation that affects the budget. The House determines what, you have to start with the House before you start talking about whether or not you're going to spend something. The House gets to tell you whether or not you get to even discuss spending the money. If the House doesn't say, we're okay if you spend this money, you don't even get to argue about the issue. Biden famously overstepped that. The reverse, however, is the president can shut shit down. Now, he doesn't have the authority to unilaterally repeal law, but, and this is what executive orders are for, he does have the authority through the executive order to define the administration of policy within the executive branch. Now, Obama abused this with DACA by, rather than working with the Congress and the Senate to pass laws and change laws or repeal laws related to the way we handle foreign invaders, he just instructed unilaterally, he instructed the Border Patrol and ICE agencies to not expend resources. See, there's that key phrasing, to not expend resources on the enforcement of certain laws. Basically, he said, I want you to stop deporting people. Now, look, Jack, I want you to stop rounding up illegals. I know it's your job, but I want you to don't do it. Okay? Right? And so that is similar to the authority here. And so what Obama did there was very cleverly use an available executive authority in a way that it was not intended to be used. What Donald Trump is doing here is very overtly using that same legitimate authority as prescribed by the Constitution to take actions which are overtly those which were intended to be available to the president by enumerating this authority to him.
And And how funny would it have been to have seen Biden get impeached for violating legislation that he himself sponsored?
Yeah. Ain't that a pity? You know,
So
that's something that we're going to talk about a lot in the future with the rhinos. You know, we're going to be talking a little more later this week, probably, about the confirmation hearings and the Republicans that are voting against some of these nominees. Because let me be clear about this, and we'll go into detail on this. And it'll be kind of a theme going through looking at rhinos in the future. You know, if you're voting against Kash Patel, you have something to hide. Like his entire platform is, I want
that's
to
both sides of the
investigate
aisle.
corruption in the government. If you say, and if your answer is no, I don't want you to investigate corruption in the government. Listen, we're not talking about Fifth Amendment protections here. We're talking about you're abusing your power to continue abusing your power.
Yeah. Someone arrest this man, please. So you want to pull up some salt? Got a couple of.
Yes. Let's
so
do
anyway,
that.
so as this bloodbath was occurring, all right, over the weekend, of course, a lot of these government employees would be fall under the label of perpetually online. Okay. And they were making their voices heard in the way that only they know how. So let's see if Larry can pull some. Uh-oh.
Okay. That's not going to work the way I wanted it to. That's probably for the best.
Yeah.
No, okay. I can do it like this.
You pulled up the image of a Supreme Commander trainee. Surely you can do text. Surely you can.
Okay.
Oh well.
I'm going to do it the risky way.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually share images directly from one of the infamous threads. Now, in fairness, this is not the infamous thread, but
it's just pics. It's just the files that were placed there.
And
okay.
Okay. So yeah, this is straight off of Reddit.
Yeah. So anyway, they can read it, but here we go. So this is what you were talking about, right? And this is one of like the first red pills that one of the first red pills I ever took back in like the early 2000s, and it was Ann Coulter actually who clued me into it. But like leftism is actually a religion. These are their religious beliefs. Okay, you are attacking their sacraments when you attack DEI and when you refuse to fund the government towards those efforts. All right.
Hey, do me a favor, Mario.
Yeah.
Because we're looking at this material, I don't want to overflood the algorithm or the audience dropping too many F-bombs. I don't mind them occasionally, but let's try to just say F for the rest of this instead of actually dropping the fuck word over and over again, because you know how these shit libs are. They can't help themselves.
Did I? I wasn't paying attention.
No, you didn't. But we're about to be reading these comments.
Oh no, I'm not reading their trash. The audience can just look at it if they want to. Okay. But yeah, like I said, it is their religion. All right.
Well, let's talk about this one in some detail.
Which is why they're so fanatical. Okay. Why they get so fanatical. Okay. When anything interferes with their preferred way of life or way of
Well, you've got this one, r/FBI. This reads like you're hearing something from somebody inside of the agency.
Correct.
Now, I don't know that to be the case certainly, but I can tell you as somebody who's done analysis and produced actionable intelligence products, if I were to read this in the course of producing a product, I would take this at a minimum to be adequately indicative of a legitimate target, enough to justify further investigating the identity of the otherwise anonymous target.
Yeah, I agree. And
that's a long way to say this is an FBI agent giving instructions to people on how to subvert and evade the FBI investigating their criminal activity.
It could be, or it could just be some like blue anon nonsense about how, like, be careful. be careful. Elon Musk is using key score trackers, so be careful what you type. You know, it could just be nonsense. So anyway, moving on. This one can't read.
Oh, we'll just skip over that one then. It's 2045. You are hiding in what's left of your local GameStop in the ruins of the city of Richmond, Virginia, when a soldier screams something at you in a broken English accent, thickly veiled with Norwegian, about how you must come outside or I'll shoot. You're loaded onto a bus filled with your other countrymen. They say they want to show you something. You're taken to a massive abandoned parking lot with white tents and chain link fences. You remember this place. This was the old Walmart. Trump's gov requisitioned this area for mass deportations. You know, these lefty fantasy
screens. It's fantasy. It's fantasy doom porn is what it is. Like,
yeah, exactly. Fantasy doom porn. That's a great way to describe it. And they're describing the kinds of things that
they would do
only ever happened
yeah.
in communist and socialist nations.
Right.
Right. And I say that in full understanding and full knowledge that we actually had Japanese internment camps in the United States. Only ever under the control of communist or socialist regimes has any nation ever instituted ethnic cleansing or rounding up people based on any kind of characteristic and putting them into death camps or concentration camps, right? Another great example was China, the UK, and Australia, not to name a few among many others, during COVID. Right? Just, I mean, it's pure psychopathy going on here. Anybody else having amigos show up on their job? Not having amigos show up on their jobs this morning?
So okay, yeah.
First, isn't that racist?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's okay when they do it. But anyway, that is you're seeing a lot of that in social media, like especially in TikTok, right, where it's showing like job sites that are abandoned because all the illegals aren't showing up to work to build houses. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's the psyop. Kind of the psyop right now is if Trump doesn't stop, then no houses will get built and all the restaurants will have to shut down their kitchen because there's no illegals to cook the food. You know what I mean? So that's the psyop that they're running.
Right. And once again, not only is it a psyop, but once again, it's they're exposing themselves for who they are. Right. Mm-hmm. The left is interested in one thing only. One thing and one thing only with this.
By slaves.
Yeah. They're dedicated to a slave state. They're dedicated to slavery, right? Right. You hear all the conversation about the Civil War and the South was mostly Democrats, and what really happened in the Civil War is it was the Democrats fighting the Republicans to keep their slaves. Okay, there's some factual basis to that, yes, and that conversation's a little more nuanced, and that's a very interesting fact pattern to discuss and discover. But the fact is that, yes, the Democrats have always been the party of slavery. But when we say that, understand when you bring that to the future, when you bring that to the fore, bring that to current day, we just went through the 4 years of Biden with massive invasion over the southern border. And a lot of that is related to child trafficking. And when we say child trafficking, we are talking about children who are being delivered to monsters for sexual abuse, retained in confinement and slavery, right? We talk about how we've talked about how America abolished slavery, and okay, the UK abolished it first a little bit, and then we made greater gains here, and we can have the conversation. Mario, you and I should do this on a show. We should have the conversation about how slavery originally, the earliest forms of slavery, were actually a moral and ethical evolution from the prior extant alternatives. But that's a whole other thing. But you come to the fore, and let me remind you that since the Civil War, there were no open air slave markets in the world. until Barack Obama got in office, and then they reopened in several African countries. They started openly running open air slave markets in especially Muslim controlled African countries during Barack Obama's tenure, and that has not stopped. So they are very much in the business of slavery, and the objective is a communist state where you have a small central government that essentially enjoy the liberty and prosperity that Americans enjoy today, and it is provided to them entirely by a slave class. And between the two classes, there is a police force, and that's it. That's the objective. Is a three-tiered global government where you have your Bidens, your cops, and your slaves.
Yes, and like I said, yes, it is held together by that unending flow of slave labor. The United States, sadly, in the past 4 years under Biden, has become basically a soul harvester complex. Okay, and the fresh supply of fresh souls to be fed to the combine is being interrupted right now, and the left is panicking. And yeah, like you said, slavery is an improvement over barbarism. Like civilization 1.0 is basically master slave. But anyway, do you want to get more salt?
Oh, more salt.
And then we'll leave.
More salt. Let's get to the next one.
Yep. Oh, and then they always draw like the Holocaust comparisons.
Like, I love this. My young daughter agrees his name is the Orange Man in our hose. We don't say his name. The kids made this rule.
Like psychopaths, voyeuristically, or what's the word when you get something pleasure from someone else's action? Can't think right now.
Schadenfreude?
No, not should.
Oh,
vicariously,
no.
Like vicariously living out their fantasy through
right.
like, making up stories about their children. This is a common leftist thing. Like they'll post like an image of something, like a picture of Trump bad, and it's like my 5-year-old drew this and posted it on the fridge when clearly they drew it. I don't understand that. It's mostly women who do that, I think. Unhinged.
Well, and like this one says, my 7-year-old the other day emphatically said F Donald Trump.
Exactly.
While we were having a surface level conversation about current events.
Each of them will have like their own.
That didn't happen by accident.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Your 7-year-old didn't produce that opinion and that phonetic utterance, organically. They heard you say it over and over again. I have a bunch of kids. My kids say some weird shit sometimes. You know why they say weird shit sometimes? Because they've heard daddy say weird shit sometimes. Right? When 5-year-old Penelope in 2020 said, "Hey daddy, there's a box outside from Amazon. It says made in China on the side. I think you should burn it." I guarantee you she extrapolated the information that led her to that conclusion from hearing me talk about the COVID virus and the fact that it was from Wuhan, it was from China, it's a Chinese virus, etc. I'm plagued by visions of an American Holocaust.
You don't even have to read it, okay? Like just the fact that it's a subreddit called Suicide Watch, and then the title, "I am plagued by visions of an American Holocaust." Like that, I'm already satisfied. We can move on.
Yeah.
I just love the hysteria. All right.
Okay, this one says now is a great time to start masking again. I bet you there's something in here about.
No. The reason I included this is because it's like their cope method, okay? It's their safety blanket. You see, for a lot of these people, the greatest time of their life was during the COVID pandemic. And that we've talked about this but anyway, like during the lockdowns, that was the greatest time of their life because they for once felt that they were part of something bigger than themselves, and that they generally believed that they were staying home to keep people safe, and we were all, all the restrictions, all the tyranny was just to keep people safe, okay? And that we were all heroes for blindly participating in this in the psyop that was COVID-19. That's a whole other show, but it just goes to show, like in a moment of stress, their mind kind of wants to go back to that last time they felt secure, and that mask, the cuck muzzle, is effectively a security blanket for them.
Well, and so Cameron and I talked about this a few times before. We shot a wedding in 2020, right? And at the time it was in I think it was on Valentine's Day in 2020. And the wedding was a great event. We had a ball, but the couple insisted that the vendors wear masks, right? So the film crew wore masks, the caterers wore masks, et cetera, et cetera. This wedding was a gay couple, and many of the guests there were people you would recognize from television. This was a very upscale event. There were news anchors, reporters. There were, big money mucky mucks that you've seen talking on television. It was a big deal wedding, right? They didn't wear masks, and it very much had the feeling of, this is the signifier that you are not one of us.
Of your class.
This is the thing that puts you apart from us. But on the other side of that, another thing that the Democrats have taken with, they're talking about the solidarity thing, right? Remember, they keep saying that Republicans are all Nazis, et cetera, et cetera. They desperately want something to happen. They desperately want. We've talked about there's not enough racism, right? The supply does not meet the demand, and so they have to try and fabricate the supply.
Yeah.
Right. The Democrat shills and Democrat voters have a massive market demand for racism, and the supply just isn't there. Cameron points out the couple didn't insist, and that's true. That's true. It was the planner, but that's a whole other thing. And yeah, fair play, Cameron. I didn't mean to throw any shade necessarily on the couple. They were actually a great couple. But anyway,
no, they weren't.
In the world of Trump and MAGA are all Nazis, the mask is their Star of David, because they want to be forcibly branded as victims. And just like the lack of racism to meet the market demand, there's nothing from MAGA is coming down and saying, here's the symbol, you will sew it onto all your clothes. Nobody's coming out and branding their foreheads with the hammer and sickle so that we know to avoid them in public because they're communist and dangerous.
No, Marco, right? You should not. But
Marco, while I agree with your brother that you should not be watching this at work, you should absolutely be telling all of your friends at work about this, because headphones. They are our people.
Headphones, not on speaker.
Anyway, like that time you asked me to watch, like that time you showed me read a book on YouTube in a cafe in Monterey, California. Mario says, "Hey Lowry, you're gonna watch this video on your laptop." And I said, "Okay, I'll watch it." And I hit the play button. He said, "No, headphones, dude." Okay. And then I listened, and then I watched it, and he was right. It needed headphones.
You derailed slightly. Maybe it's throw in one more piece.
Speaking of headphones, I want to apologize for my headphone wearers for my previous outburst. I didn't mean to hurt you.
So yeah, you were saying the mask it's a sign of the penitent ones, basically.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. It's the mark of victim.
Believers. Mark of the believer.
Yeah.
Victim, penitent. Well,
and that was psychologically, they may not have even realized it. The voters may not have even realized, but psychologically, that was one of the reasons they were so in favor of the mandates. Masking started under Donald Trump. It was Fauci's fault, sure, but Trump was in office, and pushing for the mandates made it feel psychologically like you've got your orange Hitler forcing you to sew the star of Blue David onto your clothes against you had to have that victim codification.
3 masks equals triple efficacy.
Yeah. I'm telling you, these people are psychotic. I mean, just absolutely psychotic.
All right.
We are at 1 hour. I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in it there, unless you got something else you want to hit, Mario.
Nah, that'll do it for me.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching this morning. We appreciate you as always. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Click that Buy Me a Coffee button. Help us keep these cups full and hot. We appreciate that enormously. That's chock full of nuts, by the way. And it's
drinking. Yeah.
Chock full of nuts is my favorite cheap coffee.
It's cheap and good. I agree.
Yeah. I get 2 cans delivered every 3 weeks at my house. No, I get 3 cans delivered every 2 weeks at my house. We go through some.
Wait,
but yeah,
sponsored by chock full of nuts. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm working on it.
We'll know, because there'll be like multiple cans of it in the background, like in between guns, tucked under crevices here and there, just so you can see it.
Maybe
that's all you know.
Maybe I should anyway and just start calling them like, hey, look. We love you guys. I've been drinking chock full of okay. I know we're about to wrap it up. When I was in Afghanistan, though, my wife would mail me cans of chock full of nuts and bricks of local Kona, because we were stationed in Hawaii all the time. So mom and dad would send me cans of chock full of nuts, and my wife would send me cans of chock full of nuts and bricks of local Kona. And I'm telling you, dude, you want to build relationships and do some networking. Be the guy in an active war zone that has the good coffee. When the generals and the commanders and the sergeants major and the first sergeants are coming and knocking on your shoe and saying, "Hey, Lowry, can I get a cup of Joe?"
Yeah.
The best thing you can do is say, "Yes, sir. I just started a fresh pod. Let's stand here and smoke a cigarette and chit chat while we wait for it to brew." Yeah. So how's your war going?
Within the command structure of your unit, good coffee is real soft power.
It is. It really is.
My care package: natural American spirits, peppermint patties, because nothing tastes better in a 140-degree summer Baghdad day than an ice cold peppermint patty.
Oh yeah, no doubt. No doubt. All right, guys. Thanks for watching this morning. Y'all be safe out there. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow. Yeah. I'm gonna do it again. I lost my button. We love you, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Ciao. Shambles today. It's terrible.
I think we're okay right there until the end.